It's Sean from Crafted Elements again, and I'm going to be using our new 25 by 5 silicone board mold for this particular project. And what's cool about this mold is you can use it to make a long charcuterie board, cheese board, bread board, but it also is a perfect form for making resin wood coasters. And what I mean by that is you can create a very long piece. This is 5 inches by 25, and then cut it into 5-inch pieces. So you'll end up with 5 by 5 inch coasters. Likewise, if you wanted to use a more standard coaster size, a 4 by 4, you'd simply trim half an inch off either side or an inch off one side, and you'll end up with a 25 by 4 inch piece that you can then cut 6 4-inch coasters off of, if that makes sense. I'm going to show you how we do that. So I've already pre-cut a piece of 3/4 inch maple. This is just what I had in the warehouse, so that's what I'm using. Simply slide it into the mold. Now I want to just make a quick note. Before I put this in the mold, I actually sprayed this mold with the silicone mold release. You don't have to do that, but it will certainly guarantee the longevity of your mold and prevent possible mold tear out. So it's definitely recommended to use a spray-on silicone mold release, kind of like this. All right, available from Amazon from 13 to 15 bucks. It's pretty cheap. Pre-mix the epoxy, because this is not really an epoxy video. If you're watching this, you're looking at our molds and the project, not necessarily how to make epoxy. But I've pre-mixed this, and I was kind of tired of doing the same old blue stuff, so I'm using a antique copper color. I'm just going to pour our epoxy in here. Typically when you're doing a pour like this that's over a 1/4 inch, you'll want to use a casting epoxy. I just didn't have any available. So I'm using an art epoxy, which is also like a resin tabletop epoxy. It's definitely much thicker. You can get micro bubbles in it when you're pouring a thick piece like this, but it's a very, very dark color, so it's not really going to matter once we finish it. Now to hold this wood down for the epoxy is just using a hand weight or a kettlebell. There's obviously, you can use a clamp on the side of your workbench as well. So we're going to let this piece dry and set for the next 24 hours, come back, and we'll go on to the next stage of the process. All right, I'm back after 24 hours, and this epoxy is fully set, or at least set enough to the point where we can demold it and start working with the piece. So we're just going to take our weight and HDPE spacer off, and you can see there's a little bit of resin attached here. So I'm going to grab my trusty hammer and just knock it off like that. And here is our piece. Now watch this, the demold. We're just going to peel back the edge of the mold here. And it just comes right off. And that's partly because of the mold release we used. But even without the mold release, the demolding process of these silicone molds is crazy easy. And that's a pretty clean mold. We definitely recommend you use soap and water before the next pour with these molds, just to make sure everything's cleaned out of them. So now we have our board with our resin. So we have two choices here. We can, well, either way we need to plane it, but we can either make it a long cheese board, charcuterie board. We can cut a handle into it, or we can make this into coasters by cutting it up into 5 or 6 pieces. For the sake of this video, I'm going to make some coasters just to show you how versatile this particular mold can be. So let's take this over to the planer, get it planed, and then we'll start cutting it up, routering it, and sanding it. food safe mineral oil, and look at that. Well, that's it, folks. These coasters are done. I pulled them out of the oil vat, dried them off, and they are good to go to either gift or sell in our store. And I think I'm just gonna have a nice iced tea. This is not flavored moonshine. I don't drink and use power tools. Cheers. To get your own multi-use silicone board mold, like our 25x5 coaster and long cheese board mold, as well as to shop any of our other mold sizes, head over to craftedelements.com and click on the molds link at the top. And also make sure you follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Crafted Elements Co. Thanks for watching.